Today we are cracking open the cellular engine of the human body to answer one evolutionary riddle. Why does being close to the ground give you more time on Earth? Why does Goliath fade while David endures? Strapped in because the answer requires us to rethink everything we know about growth, energy, and the very definition of aging. For centuries, humanity has operated on the collective obsession. Bigger is better. We praise the towering athletes, we favor height in leadership, and we treat physical growth as the ultimate metric of childhood health. But nature operates on a completely different set of books, and in her ledger, every extra inch of height is treated not as a badge of honor, but as an expensive luxury tax. When scientists strip away modern medicine, wealth, and lifestyle, they are left with an uncomfortable, upside-down reality. Shorter people, on average, live longer than tall people, not by a matter of days or weeks, but by years. In some populations, the difference is staggering. Take a look at former professional basketball players, a group with elite fitness and premium healthcare. Statistical analysis revealed that the taller players, those in the top 5% of height, tend to die younger than their shorter peers. Broaden the scope of entire nations, and the trend holds inside the human species. Larger body in the robust prediction of a shorter life. For the last 200 years, human height has skyrocketed across the globe. Why? Because we conquer industrial-scale famines, wipe out childhood diseases, and improve sanitation. If you grew up with clear water and plenty of protein, your body maximizes genetic high potential. If you grew up in poverty or suffer from chronic childhood illness, your growth was stunned. So historically, epidemiological data showed that taller populations live longer simply because they were the ones who weren't starving or dying of cholera as toddlers. Height became a proxy for wealth. But what happens when you remove that bias? What happens when you look at the group of people who all share the exact same environment, the exact same diet, and the same lifestyle, but simply inherited different heights? This is exactly what researchers did when they studied thousands of American men of Japanese ancestry, tracked over a staggering 40 years period. They controlled for everything: smoking, wealth, diet, midlife, health. The results were undeniable. There was a direct linear relationship between height and mortality. The shorter the men were, the longer they lived. The trend was perfectly clear right up into the oldest demographics, where the individuals surviving past 85 or 90 years old were overwhelmingly of shorter stature. This is not an issue of money, geography, or exercise. This is an issue of physics and cellular biology. To understand why, we have to look at the human body, not as the majestic temple, but as the machine subject to the brutal laws of engineering. Imagine you own a house. Actually, let's make two houses. One is sprawling 10,000 square foot luxury mansion with vaulted ceilings, massive corridors, and 20 rooms. The other is cozy, smart and designed 1,000 square foot cottage. Now let me ask you, which house is harder to maintain? Which one takes more energy to heat in the winter and cool in the summer? Which plumbing system has more structural stress, more joints that can leak, and more pipe distance for water to travel? The mansion, obviously. It requires a massive non-stop flow of resources just to keep it from falling into despair. The human body is no different. We're biological structures governed by mass, volume, and surface area. When an organ is double in height, it doesn't just get twice as heavy, thanks to the loss of geometry. Its volume and weight scales cubically, while its surface area only scales quadratically. This means a person who is 6'4" does not just have a little more skin and bone than someone who is 5'4". They have vastly more mass. They are carrying around billions of additional cells, and every single one of those cells is a mouth to feed, a factory generating metabolic waste, and a target for cellular damage. Let's start with the most overworked muscle in your body, your heart. In a shorter individual, the distance the heart has to pump blood is relatively short. The columns of liquid within the blood vessel exert less hydrostatic pressure. But if you are towering tall, your heart has to fight a much steeper gravitation gradient to push blood upward to your brain. The total length of your blood vessel is significantly greater, meaning your cardiovascular system operates under inherently higher resistance. Over 5, 6, or 7 decades, that extra workload accumulates. It's like running an engine at 4000 RPM instead of 2000. Both engines work perfectly fine when they are brand new, but which one do you think blows a gasket first? It gets worse when we look at the proportionality of our internal machinery. This brings us to a fascinating concept known as the organ reserve dilemma. You might assume that if a person is 20% taller and 40% heavier, their total organs are automatically 40% larger and more powerful to compensate. But nature does not work in perfect symmetry. Historical anatomical studies have pointed out that organs like the brain, liver, and kidneys can become structurally disproportionate in taller individuals relative to their total body mass. Think of it as an efficiency ratio. Shorter individuals possess higher functional capacity in their organs relative to their total mass those organs have to support. They have what scientists call a greater cell reserve over time. If your liver or kidneys are serving fewer total kilograms of surrounding tissue, those organs experience less operational wear and tear. They don't have to filter as much metabolic waste per day. They are not constantly pushed to their absolute limits just to maintain basic equilibrium. By contrast, a giant's organs are working overtime from day one, leaving them with less reserve capacity left over to handle the inevitable insult of old age, illness, and environmental stress. But the thermodynamic stress on organs is just the surface level of this mystery. To find the true cost of height, we have to look at the very foundation of life, self-division. Every human being starts as a single fertilized egg. To build a full-grown adult, the cell has to duplicate its DNA and split. Then those cells split over and over again, trillions of times. Now think about the simple math of building a taller body, a larger skeleton frame, longer muscles, more extensive neural pathways, and more blood vessels required a vastly greater number of total cells divisions during childhood, adolescence, and early adulthood. Every single time a cell divides, it has to copy its entire genetic code, about 3 billion base pairs, and our biological copy-paste mechanism is incredibly accurate, but it is not perfect. Occasionally, a typo occurs, a mutation. Most of these mutations are completely harmless. They occur in non-coding regions of your DNA, or the cell self-destructs before causing trouble. But aging, at its core, is the slow, unstoppable accumulation of these genetic typos. It is the gradual loss of cellular information. Because taller people require a significantly higher volume of self-replications to construct and maintain their larger bodies, they burn through their cellular division potential at an accelerated rate. Their tissue experiences more total iterations of the copy-paste cycle. This means that by the time a tall person reaches midlife, their cells have undergone more cumulative wear and tear than those of a shorter person of the exact same chronological age. They're quite literally cellularly older. This brings us to the most dangerous consequence of having more cells, the cancer equation. Cancer is not a foreign invader. It is not a virus or bacteria you catch from someone else. Cancer is your own cell going rogue. It's a normal cell that suffers a specific set of genetic mutations that damage its internal kill switch, causing it to divide uncontrollably. Now let's treat this purely as a game of statistical probability. Imagine you're playing a lottery, where drawing a losing ticket means developing malignant tumor. If you buy 50 tickets, you have a certain risk of losing. If you buy 100 tickets, your risk of drawing the bad ticket does not just increase, it doubles. A taller person has more tissue. They have more skin, more bone, more colon linen, and more lens tissue. Simply put, they have more total cells exposed to environmental damage and spontaneous mutations over their lifetime. The epidemiological data on this is absolute and incredibly consistent across different cultures and races. For every extra 4 inches of height, a person's risk of developing almost all forms of cancer rises by roughly 10% to 15%. This biological tax applies to both men and women, and it holds true even when you adjust for smoking, lifestyle, and environment. When you are tall, your body simply provides a larger canvas for random ecological accident to occur. It is the inescapable price of carrying around a bigger biological blueprint. Up until now, we talk about the physics and the math, but evolution doesn't just leave things to chance. It coordinates these processes using an internal biological master control system. Deep inside your endocrine system sits an evolutionary toggle switch. It is the fundamental trade-off written into the code of all complex life. You can either dedicate your energy to growing big and reproducing quickly, or you can dedicate your energy to long-term cellular maintenance and repair. You cannot do both at maximum capacity at the same time. This pathway is governed by hormone you probably heard of, or at least its close relative, IGF-1, which stands for insulin-like growth. During your childhood and teenage years, your brain signals your liver to flood your body with IGF-1. It is the chemical hormone on the construction site of your body. It commands your bones to lengthen, your muscle to hypertrophy, and your cells to proliferate. People who naturally produce high level of IGF-1 or have receptors that are highly sensitive to it grow up to be tall, muscular, and physically imposing. But what happens when the construction phase is over? If your body keeps pumping out high levels of IGF-1 throughout your adult life, that chemical hormone never leaves the job site. This sounds great in theory, but in an adult body, non-stop cell proliferation is a recipe for disaster. It suppresses a vital process called autophagy, which is your body's internal recycling system, where cell breaks down and clean out damaged components, misfolded proteins, and dysfunctional mitochondria. The guardian gene meets FOXO3. This brings us to the holy grail of the longevity research and the ultimate explanation for why shorter stature correlates with a longer life. It's a gene called FOXO3. Scientists first discovered the power of the FOXO gene family when studying model organisms like C. elegans, microscopic roundworms, and fruit flies. They found that if they intentionally broke or dilate down the insulin IGF-1 signaling pathway in these creatures, something miraculous happened. The animals did not grow up as large. They stayed small, but their lifespan doubled or even tripled. They become incredibly resilient to stress, heat, and toxins. When scientists moved their research to humans, they discovered that we possess our own version of this ancient survival mechanism, the FOXO3 gene. FOXO3 is essentially the master coordinator of your body defense grid. When activated, it enters the cell nucleus, binds to your DNA, and switches on an entire suite of your protective genes. It deploys antioxidants and zinc to destroy the dangerous free radicals, accelerates DNA repair, improves protein quality control, and forces damaged cells to quiet self-destruct before they can turn into the cancer. And here's where the puzzle pieces finally lock together perfectly. In that massive 40-year study of thousands of individuals, researchers made a historical breakthrough. They discovered that specific variations of the FOXO3 gene, directly linked to the extreme longevity and reaching the age of 100, were strongly and inversely associated with the body height. Shorter men were far more likely to carry the protective longevity of FOXO3. Their body naturally maintained lower fasting insulin level and lower baseline growth signaling. Because their systems were not rattling the growth engine, their FOXO3 gene could step up, take control, and keep the cellular machinery running clear, pristine, and error-free for decades. To see this play out in the real world, we don't need to look through a microscope. We just need to look at the map of the world's blue zone, the geographic region where people live measurably longer lives than the rest of the global population. Consider the Italian island of the Sardinian. For generations, this isolated mountain community boasted one of the highest concentrations of male centenarians on the entire planet. And if you walk through these villages and look at the older generation, you will notice a striking common denominator. They're short. The average height of the traditional Sardinian centenarian man is around 5'3" or 5'4". For centuries, the harsh resource-scarce mountain environment favored individuals with small statures. They required fewer calories to survive. Their cardiovascular system were not strained by the steep mountain terrain, and their high-efficiency metabolism, shielded by active longevity genes, kept them free from age-related chronic illness well into their 90s. So what is the ultimate evolutionary verdict? Is height a curse and has been sure to guarantee of a long life? Of course not. Stature is just one component in an incredibly intricate mosaic of human health. A tall person with a clean diet and stress-managed life and great sleep can easily outlive a short person who eats ultra-processed food and smokes. Height explains only a fraction of individual lifespan variance. Modern medicine, public health, and lifestyle choices remain incredibly powerful levers. But what this science does challenge is our cultural bias. It reminds us that everything in biology is a trade-off. The traits we praise in society, rapid growth, physical dominance, and towering statures, come with a quiet hidden biological receipt that must be paid at the cellular level. Nature doesn't care about our societal preferences or aesthetics. She cares about a balance, efficiency, and thermodynamics. And in the grand theater of life, she repeatedly proves that sometimes the most sustainable way to build a masterpiece is to design it small, keep it efficient, and build it to last. Thanks for watching. If this deep dive changed how you look at the human body, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and share this video with your tallest or shortest friend. See you in the next episode.